Um, so hello everyone. Welcome. My name is Savannah. I am the Book Week coordinator for Book Week this year with Sask Books. And I'm really excited to introduce you all to Rowan McCandles and Peace Akintade. They are going to be having they're both going to be reading today, and also we're going to have like a little conversation around um, being Black in the publishing industry and around our experience or their experiences in that. And yeah, so really excited about this. Um, uh, Before we get started, just want to acknowledge that Sask Books is located on Treaty 4 territory in Regina, which sits on the homeland of the Nehiyawak, Anishinaabeg, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota peoples, as well as the Métis Nation. Um, Peace joins us from Treaty 6 territory, which encompasses the traditional territories of numerous First Nations, including Cree, Dene, Nakota, Saulteaux, Ojibwe, and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. And Rowan joins us from Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral and traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dakota, Dene, Métis, and Oji Cree nations. We want to take this moment to acknowledge the ancestors of this place, the historical and ongoing care of these lands, and also important to recognize that acknowledgement is just one step in a larger process of writing relations and moving forward. We also want to thank our funders. So the Department of Canadian Heritage, the Canada Book Fund, and the Canada Council for the Arts. Without their support, Book Week would not be possible, so we're grateful for that. Additionally, we have some notes on Zoom. So I'm sure most of us are pretty familiar with Zoom at this point, but that's not necessarily the case. So let's just briefly go over Zoom stuff. So this session is being recorded through Zoom. So Zoom only records the video of those who are being highlighted in speaker view. If you do not wish to be recorded, please remain muted, and Zoom will not record your video or audio. For Q&A protocol at the end, all participants are automatically muted when they enter into the room, as you are all muted. If you'd like to ask a question, just use the raise hand function in Zoom, or you can send a message to the chat. If you do the raise hand function though, you can, and we'll call on you, and then you can unmute yourself and ask the question that way, or again through chat. If you have any questions, also chat is a good way to do that. Just shoot us a thing, and one of the moderators or people behind the scenes will take care of that. So yeah, that's kind of Zoom stuff. If you have any questions, again, just shoot it in the chat and we'll try and help you out there. So why we're really here is our amazing authors. So we have Rowan McCandles here today with us. Rowan lives and writes from Winnipeg, which, as we noted before, is located on Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral and traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dakota, Dene, Métis, and Oji Cree nations. Her writing has appeared in print and online journals such as The Fiddlehead, The Malahat Review, Prairie Fire, Room, Skin Deep, the Naciona, and in the anthology Black Writers Matter, which is one of the reasons we're here today. In 2018, Rowan's short story Castaways was longlisted for the Journey Prize. In 2020, she received gold as well as an honorable mention with the National Magazine Awards. Her essay collection, Persephone's Children, will be published in 2021 with Dundurn Press. She is a member of the Fiddleheads Advisory Board. So Rowan is here with us today. Peace, as well, is also joining us. We're really excited about that. Peace is an African-Canadian poet, spoken word artist, and sought-after public speaker living in Saskatoon. She is the coordinator of Write Out Loud, which is a Saskatoon-based youth poetry community and a board member of Tonight It's Poetry. Her poems touch on the impact of slavery in her village, colorism, growing up in Kuwait, Nigeria, and Canada, and relearning her culture in the face of colonization. So please join me in welcoming Rowan and Peace tonight. This is exciting. Peace is going to go first. So I'll let you get started, Peace.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So as I said that I am a Saskatoon-based poet. I've been doing poetry for about 5 years, 6 years in January. And I started pretty young, so my poetry has gone through a development, to say. But I wanted to share some of my newer work with you today. They have to do with Black joy, of course, being more than your skin tone, being more than the injustice, just celebrating the diversity and the culture around being Black. And also, I have a folklore about karma that we used to say a lot in my culture in Nigeria. So I wanted to share that story with you, and then I'll end with a nice poem about Black voices. So that's just a rundown of what's gonna happen here. So the first one that I want to do is has a lot to do with nature and being Black. A lot of my poems have to do with personalization and giving human quality to nature. And I always thought of being Black as being a sunflower. You know, they grow really, really high, and when you cut it down, like a sunflower on the floor is such a sad state. It's such a sad visual. And I really wanted to just elaborate on why that is so sad. And so, yeah, this is called Black Joy. If I die at the age of 21, bury me in a casket full of sunflowers to remind the world my mother never got the chance to watch me grow. If I die before the age of 30, bury me underneath dead bushes. I've spent too long on earth. Let me be fertilizer. The color of my skin means something to the earth. Like the ground, I am a chameleon ready to go back home. Just like a tree, my roots shall be strong. I look forward to the sun on my skin, like a mother's touch, known and explored. The sun caresses me like it knows every tired pore. I am known as an earth goddess, but people call me Black Girl, 'cause Black girl strong, Black girl beautiful, Black girl wanted someone to hold her by the fingers and call her enchanting, a candy mix of spirituality and sunflowers, a fragrance of opportunity. We are adaptation's creation because we create culture. Black girl making family out of trash cans, homes smell like casserole and spices and cookie dough. Black girl finding beauty in our edges and our afro. Are you still speculating our worth? Don't. When have we ever needed your help? Call us, the border between nightmare and sweet dreams. Call us a daydream. How do I know the wonders of God's first draft? She is me, and I am her. She is you, and you are her. You are her ally, her friend, her lover. You walk past her every morning and admire her flow. You stare because she radiates royalty. And once she knows her worth, the ground will sing its praise. Say your grace on the table for every Black girl. So when I die, bury me with a million different lilies and sunflowers. For every Black girl who ever felt the pain of rejection and microaggression, let my body become fertilizer. And one day, you see an army of strong BIPOC women marching in flower crowns. Thank you. Yeah. So that's the first poem. um, so the second one is called Karma. This is a very how do I call it, descriptive poem. Spoken word and poetry I have found is quite different. In through COVID, I've had to re-examine the way that I see my art media. Because spoken word is very much with a crowd. You get the energy from the audience. So I've had to like transition to written poetry and really explore what that means, explore what it means to sit down and write descriptive of what I'm feeling. So I wanted to elaborate that with a story that we have. Her name is Oshun, and she is the river goddess in our culture. And it's funny because of she's a goddess that embodies love and purity and marriage. But when she laughs, if you ever hear her laughing, you need to run. Like you have to run because of that laugh is spite. So it taught the kids how to learn about spite behind love, and abusive love and what that means. So that's how the parents taught the kids. It's true storytelling. So I wrote this poem about Oshun, which is also called I call her Karma. Karma is a river goddess dressed in yellow, cold in her nature, impassive to the dodge of culture and wisdom. A sense of eclipse surround me with music, under the guise of being friendly, wide awake, my body cracks its sorrows while the tortured sea salt hugs me. The rocks, I warn to the sea, tell me your secrets on how you swim. The river, she coddles the mind of children, turns them slowly into the hands of corrupted majesties, leaves them with sinking desires of fear roll. The kids, whose hands have not yet touched the elm of identity, whose only viewpoint of life is through the lenses of gun blasting, casting cultivated curses on impressionable adults. Let them live, the river goddess screams, laughing into the ears of empathic sinners. Close your ears, kids. Do not listen to the secrets of teachers, teaching insensitive violence humans. Do you think you know love? Know the footprints it leaves behind? You might try to fall gracefully into its outstretched hands, deeper, so you might blend into their arms, inhaling cinnamon scents. You want to know love's voice, low and rumbling through their chest. All around you, their scent tickles your neck, the bubbling happiness of love. You only know happiness, my child. To say there is nothing in life is to drink hot chocolate from a wine glass. How fickle the human mind is, to ignore the simple passions buried in our mind, succumb to the drunken state of empathy, to lose the privilege of being a child. Close your ears, children. Do not listen to the laughter in the distance. Karma parades in yellow and swirls ripples into your mind. You only know happiness, my child, but can you forgive the spite behind love? And I wonder if the ocean ever gets tired of sinking ships. I wonder if tears dream of being puddles, and if I can ever love the storm, if I knew it was the sea asking for help. Thank you. I need to let out after that. So yeah, it's a really saddening story, the story of Ocean. But it's a way for us to teach such a broad topic as love and abuse, and how you can see laughter as something wicked, when it has such a wonderful face behind it. Um, yeah. So the last poem that I'll be doing for you today, it's about Black voices, and it's my favorite to do because of uh, right now, even in the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement, one thing that stands out is that Black artists' voices found a platform to really grow and explore. And I just wanted this poem to just be an encouragement because it's so easy to fall back into the shadows. It's really, really easy to just say that the only thing that I can talk about is being Black, and the only thing that I can be is being Black. But we need to be able to separate our art from our skin. And I just wanted that to be an encouragement to Black voices. So yeah, be quiet, Black voices. Raise a nation of still empowerment, a dysphoria of whispers and hums. You, our nature's playlist repeating propaganda. Let the wind pick and choose your truths. The lilies carry your trauma into their roots. Let the rocks shiver with the soft tremble of your words. Slowly begin a revolution in bedrooms and bars. Sing, Black artists, your arms raising with each rise of music. Sway your skirts of neon letterings, hoops and hair twisting, link into one. Circle around your enemies and cry. Cry in minor ski and scream in D. Your body eclipsed and frozen, an unending rhythm of desperation. Cultivating culture could be so sweet after midnight. Become power, Black ancestors. Sit on the shoulders of youngsters. Whisper the right answers to the years. Comfort mothers, stirring watery soup for dinner. Fathers struggling to be available, Black children playing. Be our strength, Black ancestors. Remind us of better days. You are the scent of jollof rice and chicken following us to work. The coconut oil trapped between our fingers, the art pounding galas and tight wrappers, festivals, backyard parties, late night drives, close friends, upscale galas, morning hangovers remind us of love and stillness, meditating, funny videos, and life changing TED Talks. Remind us of normality, that we are more than our skin. Succeed, Black wonders. Let the world hear your hands lift the nature. Seeds of paper stumbling down. Your closeted passion succeed to avenge the fallen generation. Black wonders become heroes, just in ink stains and white paint. Do not forget the emptiness of finishing your work. Continue, Black wonders. Continue to make life understand your brilliance, the language of intelligence. Rub your success in cream pies. Smolder your victories and serve them cold to your doubters. Survive, Black children, under the gaze of torturous majesty, who watch you fall, fail, and surrender. Hold your head high than your oppressor. Shine your skin to the sun like a badge. Understand, Black elders, we are the world's afterthought, but heaven's imagination. Thank you very much for allowing me to have this space. It was great. Yeah, I could barely breathe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Peace. That was beautiful. Thank you. Wow, that was really amazing. Okay. Rowan, do you want to? Would you like to go? I'm gonna mute myself. So whenever you're ready, if you want to take a minute.
Okay. So I'd like to thank everyone for the invitation to be here and to share space with Peace. That was amazing. Amazing poetry. What I'm going to read from is a piece that I had in the anthology Black Writers Matter that was published by the University of Regina Press. And the piece that I have in the anthology is called Hunger Games: A Quiz. Hunger Games: A Quiz. 1. Check all that apply. If you feed a fever and starve a cold, what should you have done about your eating disorder? A. You had no idea you even had an eating disorder. It always seemed a part of you, like a parasitic twin siphoning your self-esteem. B. You had some idea, but were terrified to commit to change. C. Nothing. After all, Black girls don't get eating disorders. D. Reach out for help because Black girls do get eating disorders and there was no way you could overcome it on your own. E. You didn't want to believe that you even had an eating disorder. You were just extremely disciplined, had an abundance of food intolerances, a profound and abiding compassion for all living things, except perhaps for yourself. F. Who are you trying to kid? G. All of the above. 2. True or false? Growing up, when people said, "You have such a pretty face," it wasn't meant as a compliment. 3. When you finally summoned the courage to walk through the doors of the eating disorders program, which best represented your thoughts? A. Turn and run. Run, run as fast as you can. Things weren't as bad as they seemed. B. You rationalized there were far worse ways to abuse your body than having an eating disorder. C. Things were as bad as they seemed. So even if you had to force yourself, you were going to participate in this program. D. One of these things was not like the other. You were the only woman of color in the group. E. You were terrified that making peace with food and with your body would lead to massive weight gain. F. So obsessed with surface and appearance, your family and society wouldn't accept you if you gained weight. G. You couldn't imagine life without an eating disorder. H. All of the above. True or false? The bathroom scale weighed and measured your worth. 5. Giving up your eating disorder felt like you'd be A. Abandoning your best friend. B. Ridding yourself of your worst enemy. C. Both A and B. True or false? You couldn't fight Mother Nature. Big bones just ran in your family. 7. Check all that apply. Have you ever wondered why your mother never ate a meal with the family at the dining room table? Seemed to live on cucumber and cottage cheese? Refused to have her picture taken? Doled out diet pills like communion wafers, teaching you that hunger was a sin and absolution could only be found in self-denial and starvation diets long before you entered junior high school. 8. True or false? It was easier to count calories than the number of times your mother said, "You don't want to wind up some fat slob with your nose stuck in a book." 9. One evening, a woman across from you in group said, "Women of color have it so much easier. They're okay with their bodies, having bigger bodies. They don't have the same pressure to look a certain way, to be thin. It's harder for white women, all this pressure to be thin." Which describes your response best? A. You pretended not to hear, not to feel the sting of her remarks. B. You counted snack box raisins as if they were rosary beads and silently cataloged your faults, your body's numerous imperfections. C. You sucked in your stomach, tried to erase the trace of Africa from your big gal thighs by squeezing them together, prevent your flesh from spilling over the side of the chair. D. You thought she didn't have a damn clue. E. You felt like a failure, a fraud, an outsider. Apparently, a restrictive eating disorder was not one size fits all. F. You didn't want to become a target by speaking up, be perceived as a rabble rouser, the embodiment of the angry Black woman stereotype. G. You thought, what must it be like to speak from that level of privilege? To simultaneously presume that she could speak for all women of color, discounting the historical traumas inflicted on Black women's bodies since the slave trade, while she garnered sympathy for herself. H. You wondered, why is the pain of Black women so easily dismissed and ignored? I. You went completely still, desperate to fade into the background. You wanted to disappear, which, given your prior history and the nature of your eating disorder, seemed rather ironic. J. All of the above. 10. Why did you wage war on your body? Your body was under constant critique and criticism by your family. Appearance mattered above all else. Being the product of a mixed race marriage, good enough wasn't good enough. A perfect family required perfect children. B. You were taught to fear fat like a frightened child feared monsters under the bed. C. You saw no reflection of yourself or your family in your childhood readers or storybooks. D. Systemic marginalization and erasure are exhausting. Maybe you thought if you can't beat them, join them. Make yourself literally disappear. 11. Why did you try to make yourself invisible? Why did you want to disappear? A. Invisibility was safety. Unseen, you couldn't be a target for racism. B. Invisibility was safety. Unseen, you couldn't be mistaken for some hypersexualized exotic other. C. Invisibility was safety. You learned early the vulnerability of Black and brown bodies. As a child, you witnessed unfiltered hatred on the playground, the nightly news on television, the trauma of understanding that you were not safe in this world simply because of pigment is a fear that doesn't leave you. It became a burden that couldn't be shed, unlike weight. D. Invisibility was safety. No one could touch you if you were invisible. 12. Things you wish that woman had understood before speaking out of turn and out of privilege. A. Your family worshiped the same impossible Eurocentric standard of beauty. B. The intersection between race and gender. Your body was under constant critique and criticism. The texture of your hair mattered. The pigment of your skin mattered. The size and shape of your nose, your lips, your body mattered. You felt pressured by the weight of familial and societal expectations. C. Eating disorders do not discriminate. For years, you binged, starved, and purged. D. Your family's fear that you would become some fat slob weighed heavier than any extra pounds you may have carried. They bought into the fat slob as a reworking of the racial stereotype. Black women as welfare queens, lazy and licentious, incapable of controlling their appetites, sexual or otherwise. E. You were considered exotic, developed a body that men noticed, whether you wanted them to or not. 13. True or false? Your first lover called you his Tahiti sweetie. He would go down on you while stroking your belly. He affectionately called it your little anorexic stomach, and he might as well have been saying, I love you. True or false? You kept a photograph in your wallet. You were 25. Your eating disorder was completely out of control. In the picture, your collarbone protrudes, your cheeks are hollow, eyes cloaked with sadness you were too blind to see. You called it your concentration camp photograph, and for some reason, to this day, you cannot let it go. 15, check all that apply. After the incident in group, you decided to quit the program and never return. Take time to process what had happened, deal with your hurt, anger, fear, sadness. Group no longer felt like a safe space, and you spent the majority of your life feeling unsafe in this world. Speak to the group and address your feelings of being minimized, marginalized, erased. Or perhaps speak with a woman who had made the comments. Or reach out to your counselor and group leader for help, because Black girls do get eating disorders, and baby girl, you couldn't tame that beast on your own. Thank you.
That was amazing, Rowan. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing and reading that for us.
Thank you.
Wow. I feel like I just need to take a moment and take that all in. You have some lovely comments, both of you, in the chat. I don't know if you can see them, but there's some, lots of people are expressing their amazement at your amazingness. So thank you both so much for sharing and being so vulnerable in your work and to share that with us this evening. I don't know if you want to take a minute to to just be for a second before we get into any discussion. If anyone has a question they want to send in the chat, we have some questions that we were going to discuss around publishing and being trying to navigate this industry as a Black writer. But if you have additional questions you'd like to ask, you can send them in the chat as well. Yeah, so that I think that's how we'll do it. How? Oh, Toby.
Oh, that's Toby.
Oh, sweet. How are you feeling, Rowan and Peace? What are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I just hope that my dog doesn't decide to do that. So I may have to leave for a moment to put him back into the bedroom, but we'll see how it goes. So
All good. Whatever you got to do, you can do that. How are you feeling, Peace? Yeah?
I'm feeling good.
Okay. Well, then maybe we'll start talking if we're feeling okay. Partly why I was so excited, I mean, I'm just really thrilled about this, that that you two are in conversation with each other and that we're able to do this evening. I also think it was just like a really exciting opportunity to talk about this industry in general. The book that kind of started this was Black Writers Matter, and it kind of grew into getting Peace involved, who I don't know if we mentioned before, I don't think it's in your bio, Peace, but you're the Saskatchewan Youth Poet Laureate. So for those who don't know that, that's pretty amazing. Well, I mean, you're amazing, so it makes complete sense. So yes, this is really exciting to have you in conversation. But yeah, partly it was a good opportunity to start this conversation because, as we were talking about Black folks in different industries and what the experience is trying to like work and live within that, this is a good opportunity to talk about the publishing industry and how you've been navigating that. While Rowan is doing her dog thing, maybe I'll ask you a question first, Peace. So I read somewhere that growing up in your village in Nigeria, that storytelling was like kind of woven into the community practices and was like a very like integral part of like, I guess like socialization is kind of how I remember you talking about it in that interview. I'm just curious if your storytelling practices have changed at all since you immigrated to Canada, and if you found that there's a difference in those storytelling practices performing for groups that are not predominantly Black as opposed to performing within your own community, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So I can start with talking about like my experience in Nigeria. So yeah, I lived in a village, and we spent the time always writing and talking about stories. I remember whenever the moon was super full, the storyteller, which is usually one person, that is like the main lead, lead storyteller, he would like ring a bell, and then everyone will come together and sit in a circle. And then he would start by saying story, 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 and everyone would say time, time, time. And that's how we all started. And I remember all of the kids coming around, and they'll try to go closer and closer to the fire because they thought that they could see the images um, in the fire. So that's how I learned about storytelling. That's my introduction to that kind of art form. So storytelling that we used to do is has to do with a lot of folklore. It has to do with the goddesses and the gods, and it always has a lesson in the end of it. Like there is no story that doesn't have a lesson in the end of it. So when we moved out of Nigeria and we went to Kuwait, my mom still continued that practice where we would all come, and we used to live in this one bedroom apartment where it was just one room, and it was like a prison cell. Um, and the way that my mom would like get us all together is that she would sit us all on the floor on our bed. She would put the blanket on top of all of us, and she would just quietly say story, 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 and we would say it back. And that's how we kind of found joy in little things. So I come to Canada, and I get introduced to spoken word, which is, to put it in the basic of sense, is monologues on stage. And it felt like the right like branch from going from storytelling, because of I dreamt of always being a storyteller. Even in my village, I wanted to be a storyteller. So I did my first show where I did a story about the turtle and the air, but from a Nigerian point of view. I was making fun of the story of the turtle and the air because of the turtle in our culture is very cunning. It's what the fox is to you guys, it's what the turtle is to us. So I was kind of really angry about why they made the turtle so slow and dumb in the story. And everyone loved it, but it did not go well in the points because of storytelling. Slam poetry has to do with points. So as a young, impressionable youth, I was like, okay, what did I do wrong? Let's try to fix it. So I started observing people, and I found that a lot of it has to do with yourself, like your memories, how you view the world, and also politics, is the kind of viewpoint that I had with slam poetry. So I kind of neglected the storytelling aspect of it and kind of, try to get into it, try to get into politics and talk about like being black and the racism that I did while forgetting about it. That went for 3 years that I was doing it, and it was getting good like feedback. Like people were really getting the feedback, but I knew that it wasn't something that was true to myself. Everything that I said was true. Everything that I said on stage was my power, my voice, but it felt like there was no foundation in it. So then, 3 years ago, I now sat down and was like, okay, what do I want to do? How am I going to do it in a way that's going to be put together what I've learned and what I want to be? So I started putting storytelling with my memories and started talking about my experiences in Nigeria and woven in kind of the stories of Oshun, for example, the goddess, and still bringing in like gun violence and still talking about being black, but saying it in a way that shows pride for my storytelling background. So it took few years for me to understand that um, being soft spoken, doing storytelling, it's not a different branch. Everything can be intertwined. Like there is no reason why anything should be segregated, why music cannot be with poetry, why theater cannot be with poetry, because of they're all intertwined together. So when I started talking about storytelling, I met people that really got into it and really loved it, and they kind of built me up to do it. So yeah, I just it's different because of as a black person, everyone expects you to be loud, strong, that ooh ooh ooh, bang bang bang, kind of slam poetry. But sometimes you need to be soft. You need to start everything with just story, 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 and just wait for people to say time, time, time. And it's made me really just intact with my identity. And that's how like the villages has really helped me even now 8 years ago. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That's amazing. I love that. Wow. Learning so much, and it's so lovely to hear you talk about that. One of the things I wanted to ask, and either Rowan or Peace, you can answer, was I'm just curious, how has your experience been as Black writers in the prairies, and how is that experience different than being Black elsewhere in Canada? I mean, or like whether that's you living in other places or comparing your experience to maybe friends or whatever that you have. We talked a little bit about this before, but I'm just wanted to put that out there as a question.
I find that being a Black writer on the prairies, that I've had very good experiences in terms of reception to my work, but I've found that the people that I'm closest to in terms of workshopping and running pieces by them and support are people that live either in Vancouver or else in Toronto. So I find that for myself, it can be rather isolating not to be able to um, reach out to other Black writers who live in Manitoba. Um, I think that the more we can build community and have more ownership over the publication process, that would be very helpful. But I know that it has been isolating as a Black writer on the prairie. That's sort of been my experience.
What about you, Peace?
Yeah, I can definitely see where Rowan is talking about. Like it has been very isolated. 5 years ago in Saskatoon, it's a very different place than what it is now. I had to watch immigrants come in and refugees come in because Saskatoon is now like a place of many different diversity because of the immigrant and refugee movement that happened in about 2014, 15. But before that, you wouldn't really see a Black writer in any radius. So it was very isolated for me. And also because of like, as an immigrant here, um, it's different because we come to Canada for better education, right? To be doctors, engineers, and stuff like that. So my mom was complete support of it because of she's an artist herself. But other people in the community, other Nigerians in the community, did not understand why I would need to go into like poetry slams and why I would even want to touch poetry. So I did not get support from my Nigerian community. I would go, I would be featuring in shows. I remember my first feature at 15. I was featuring in shows and I would invite some of them to come because if I wanted support, it's not it's not a nice thing to be the only Black person um, in a full room and having to speak about Black voices and not have anyone to relate to because of people can nod and they can be like, yes, yes, we get it. But I'm writing to someone in the audience so that they can feel what I'm feeling. And no one would show up. And it was like, there was no support in the community. But then now, other Black writers are starting to like come up because of I've been advocating really obnoxiously about the power of poetry. So more slowly and slowly they're trying to creep in, but um, it was really hard for the first 3 years that I was doing poetry because I did not feel supported by anyone. And it was really willpower in it. Toronto was good. Toronto was gosh, there's an energy in Toronto. You know, there was. I remember we went to Toronto for the national competition, and as soon as I got in, it was just a group of full 11 group of just Black poets, and my mind was blown because like that is the most I've ever seen of other artists. I'm not joking. That's the most I've ever seen of other artists. And they were coming on stage and they were just like rah 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 and getting it and like just bringing the energy up and like blasting the roof up. And I just sat there and I needed to sit down. And it really woke me up to be like, okay, there needs to be some kind of change in Saskatoon. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think definitely like being Black in Toronto and like that experience is very different than being Black in the prairies, and what you're talking about, just the people in the room, the makeup can be quite a bit different. So it'd be interesting to see how can we get more people showing up, and like Rowan talking about community, like how can we build community, especially for Black writers in the province or in the prairies more generally. So that'd be something to think about. One of the things I also wanted to talk about was the Association of Canadian Publishers did a survey in 2018 and found that only 3% of paid positions in the Canadian publishing industry are held by Black people, and only 18% by Black, Indigenous, or people of color, like collectively. What are the unique supports that Black writers need in the prairies, or generally in Canada, to thrive? And what do Black emerging writers especially need? Either both of you can answer if you want, or whoever wants to take it first.
I think the one thing that is needed for emerging Black writers is safe space. To know that where we bring our work will be respected, and that the space would be maintained as one of safety, so that we could feel confident and comfortable to share what it is that we bring to the table. I think that more community supports, more access to workshops, to even meet and greets, where there's the opportunity for Black writers to meet other Black writers, I think is important. And also that there's opportunities for mentorships and some connection to publishing houses as well as to agents, that we exist, we are here, we are on the prairies. We may get a little cold in winter, but I mean that doesn't stop us any. So I think that there are quite a number of different unique supports that we require, and I think that when I look at the picture, I think to myself that those things should be all doable, that it shouldn't be as difficult as it may be for some. So, yeah.
Thank you, Rowan. Those are really also like tangible suggestions as well, that like action can be taken to like establish those kinds of things. So those are all, I'm taking notes and maybe we'll have another follow-up on this afterwards, but thank you. Those are really amazing suggestions. Did you have something you'd like to add or expand on?
Oh, right out of my words. Definitely workshop is very important, because I don't really know anything about the publishing world, and I've been in the poetry scene and spoken word scene for so long, but I absolutely know nothing about publishing. Only that whenever there's time to like submit, it's usually for things that are outside of the prairies. And I feel like there's publishing places in the prairies. There has to be, but word is not coming out from them. And I feel like the more people knew that there was publishing scenes in the prairies, then more people can sign in and actually get their work done.
Thank you so much. Also wrote that down as well. So we'll touch on that later maybe. Does anyone in the audience have anything they would like to ask Rowan or Peace? Now is your chance to send a message in the chat or raise your hand if you have a question. I'll give it a moment. Hi, do you want to, Adena? Would you want to, you can unmute yourself and ask your question?
Adina. Hi.
Adina, sorry. Nice to meet you.
That's okay. Nice to meet you. I just wanted to ask, what do either Peace or Rowan do or have done so far to connect with other Black writers? Are you interested mainly only in Black Prairie writers or Black writers in general across the country?
For me, I see it as important to build community on the prairies, but I also see that there's the larger community for us to incorporate and be a part of, that, you know, we are stronger together. Our voices can be heard, I think, much more forcefully when we are, you know, there's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
So I personally think that the connection not only to prairie writers, but to writers out east and writers out west are something that's very important.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, the job, when I took the job as the Saskatchewan Youth Poet Laureate, in my cover letter, I said that I want to be able to connect. That is my baseline, is to be able to connect. So it's by promoting jobs that can help uplift Black writers. So it's either by having them feature in the website, or by inviting them to speak in various shows that I am part of, or just going out and be able to collab with them. So through that, I've been able to discover other Black writers that have not had the space to be able to share their work. And that in itself has created a community where there's not that much of a stigma in Saskatoon to actually pursue poetry, and to pursue it as something that is tangible. So those are little ways that at least I'm trying to work with Saskatoon. It's a slow process because there's many things to like break down.
Right.
Yeah, but here in the prairies, at least in Saskatoon, I find it the most of my need, uh, because of, first of all, it's a mixture of immigrants, refugees, locals, and indigenous people. And there is a barricade, there is a gate, there's a wall between each community, that I literally have to jump over a bridge if I want to go and visit a community. So one thing that I'm trying to do is to I'm creating a show here in Saskatoon that talks about folklore for both indigenous communities and African communities. So to be able to put those two communities and force them to sit in a room together, and like actually talk and share, because storytelling is such a prominent thing in both communities. So those are ways that I feel like the fairies need help. It's not just about Black writers here in Saskatoon. It's about connecting and being able to showcase that we can all succeed together when we uplift each other.
Thank you, Peace. Yeah, amazing. Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you, Adina, for that awesome question as well. Okay.
I just wanted to say something that just kind of riffs off of what Peace has been talking about, is about the importance of storytelling. I know myself that, you know, when I was teaching, I did a lot of storytelling in school, and growing up, that storytelling tradition was certainly part of my family. That, you know, my grandmother would sit us down around the table on Sundays, and she'd start with her stories. And it's very much like I see that that's where my roots began in terms of storytelling, is within family. So I think it's kind of interesting that both Peace and I feel a really strong connection to storytelling, because it's something that just warms my heart.
Thank you both so much. You are both amazing, and I'm so honored that we were able to have both of you and have both of you in conversation together this evening. I feel really excited about, you know, what kind of stuff could happen moving forward. And you guys have identified some really great starting points as well. So that's really amazing. Yeah, so thank you also everyone for coming tonight. It's awesome to see just, you know, engage people, and also just, we're all so lucky to have heard both of your poetry reading, or your poetry and your reading from the collection this evening, like very impactful and moving work. So yeah, thank you so much for being here and for all the guests joining us tonight as well. Yeah, I think, we will announce the winner of the pre-registration book giveaway later. You'll get an email if you won a book. It'll get sent to you, so you get a copy of Black Writers Matter. Otherwise, Black Writers Matter you can purchase through several different ways, but we encourage you to support your local independent bookstores. So your Turning the Tides, your McNally Robinsons, and the Penny University bookstore in Regina, which is new. Also, there's an event there tomorrow night if you're in Regina. Check it out. A micro reading, if you will. I see Carla Harris, who's making a face. We can talk after. Yeah, and thank you to Daniel and Emily and Jill at SAS Books for all your help. And yeah, thank you to Peace and Rowan again for just being amazing. And I hope we can continue this conversation in another way, in another form, at another time. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. So you can check out if you're ready to check out. Thank you.